Good evening. I call this meeting to order. This is a meeting of the school committee's building and finance subcommittee. Today is Tuesday, January 9th, 2024, and the time is 5:00 p.m. We are meeting here in person at the Gloucester High School Library, located at 32 Leslie O. Johnson Road in Gloucester, Mass. And our meetings are recorded. Effective August 16th, 2023, the public is welcome to attend in person. Alternatively, the public may attend through the Zoom link listed on the agenda. Meeting notice will reflect if the meeting is Zoom only. This is a hybrid meeting. As the recent amendments to the open meeting law allows, the subcommittee may continue to hold meetings remotely. Please note the in-person meetings will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the remote connection. We will start with introductions and we'll start on this side of the room.
Name's Stephanie Frontier, Director of Finance. I am Amy Pasquarello, Assistant Superintendent.
Hi, I'm Gary Frisch, Chief Financial Officer.
Ed Lummis, Superintendent.
I'm Melissa Prince, School Committee.
Kathy Clancy, School Committee.
William Melvin, School Committee.
Edie Provost, Special Education Director.
Graham Harris, IT Director.
Maria Puglisi, Recording Secretary.
Thank you very much. And we will start the meeting. I believe we are starting, we are going into budget season and developing the fiscal year 2025 budget. This is our first meeting of many. I think we are going to start with the IT department.
Sure, here we are. Before we get there, I'll give a little intro. Maria, if you could please, as you are doing already, pulling up this presentation. These presentations we'll do over the next 3 meetings. This week, next Tuesday, we believe, and the following week, our budget priority presentations, and they're designed to lay out the priorities and intentions, the work that we're doing across all schools in the district that will base our budget building on. So, Maria, if you go to the next slide, please, it'd be helpful. First few slides, I'm just sort of laying out the work we're doing. I'll share the. I can share I can present.
All right,
Present that. Yeah, that'd be
all
fantastic.
right. Let me make you up.
Yep.
Now I have to say that.
I'm gonna talk too soon. Please. Okay.
Yes, permission to share.
Can't share yet. The good news is just us.
Yes.
This meeting is being recorded.
On the screen share. Well,
Why do we have to cancel out?
Yeah, it says in my co-host, so.
Is that how it goes?
yeah,
Yeah.
and, you go to advanced share, please. Multiple panelists share. Post that panel, sure. Share.
I think it's fucking easy. Okay, I can't share.
Why?
All right, well, maybe.
Technical difficulties.
Next meeting.
Well, you know,
And I just realized I think I left my phone in the car and I turned the ringer on. I guess so. Don't have to worry about it. I'm gonna share the presentation.
I can't even.
That's
Stephanie.
yeah, but you're opening up a preview. That's the application. With the slideshow.
Computer battery.
If you share something. No, can you share the presentation?
I think the special.
No, it's not. We already had this.
Oh, no.
Absolutely not.
Thank God you're here.
Should be opening up in a day. Go back to your.
Yeah.
No.
Go back to your.
Yeah.
Oh, when you-
This is just.
Will you put it up Zoom too?
Goals.
No.
So what are we trying to do?
Priorities.
All right.
Still couldn't lead into the IT presentation.
Okay.
Definitely some purpose.
It is currently 5:05 and we have no attendees watching our meeting.
Thank God. I got to share screen.
Technological
I'm
difficulties
gonna see, yeah.
with the meeting.
Presentation, so-
Yeah.
That's the PDF.
Oh, yes, that's good. Well. So I care what we didn't do that, so.
Should have opened up.
Okay.
Okay, do you want me to?
You share it with Amy?
Oh, no, oh, so people, well, there's probably why.
Nobody's watching.
That's.
At work, no. Like I would have, just like it's right. So
Here,
Yeah.
look in your.
big. It can, so it can be long and narrow, or it could be a little bit bigger where it's
I
like.
just sent it back to share.
Okay.
Okay, Maria, if you can have Amy be the chair.
Anyone should be able to share.
Yeah, everybody should be able to share.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just make sure we didn't.
Hey,
There you go.
here we go.
Yes.
Hey.
Fixed it. Itch. Fixed itch.
Very good.
You're welcome. Oh, got my work done. You present? Oh, sweet.
Amy sharing, Amy fixed it.
You didn't fix it. He shared it
No,
with me and I shared it.
No.
No.
Fix the sharing permission.
Oh, okay.
Tell Amy she should do.
I can care less. A win is a win.
Give it to you.
Yeah, no.
All right, here we go. Sorry for the delay on that. And here we go. So, if you go next slide, Ms. Pascal, please. So the guiding principles of the creating an FY25 budget. What's that, FY24, sorry about that. And always building our budgets aligned with our 3-year plan for ongoing improvement. Just to restate our 4 priorities in the plan for ongoing improvement are deepening student belonging and engagement. Strengthen instruction, better connect general education, special education. Strengthen social emotional learning and mental health support. And then strengthen special education to improve coordination of services and specialized instruction. Those 4 working together improve academic achievement and deepen student learning. Okay, they have to work together to do that. You don't do one, you don't increase academic achievement and deepen student learning by just doing one of those. Wait, go back. Oh, sorry. No, you're fine, sorry. I'm on the wrong slide. Building a budget based on the current fiscal realities. The current fiscal realities are challenging for a number of reasons. Significant increases in added tuition rates and special education costs. We'll talk a little bit about that tonight. And then also likely reduction in state aid from previous years and also the end of COVID relief funding. So that's all. We know COVID relief funding is ending. We're not sure at this point about state aid. Okay, the governor has announced there'll be 9 C cuts this current fiscal year. Apparently, she's also announced that those will will stay away from local aid and school funding. Okay. And then building a budget based on the current program realities. There are a number of places where we continue to focus on improve. 2 of them are increase of students with complex needs, learning and social emotional needs. That's an area of priority and focus, and also continuing investments in O'Malley to improve academic achievement there. So those are basic areas that we're keeping in mind, or really, our principles that are guiding us as we develop the budget. Next is the budget calendar. So you see that we completed what's in yellow. We're doing what's in blue there. So we have our priority presentations, January 9th today, a week from today, the 16th, the 23rd. And then after that, the next big step is the public presentation of the district budget by Gary Frisch and myself on February 13th. still aiming for that date. And then you see that it extends through June, late June, like it does every year. Very similar approach to what we've done the last 3 or 4 years. Go to the next slide. February 13th, I just mentioned February 13th, and that's important to share with you and the public what's happening on that date. Okay, just as we look ahead here a little bit, that's the first time we'll talk about dollars and cents. We present the draft budget for FY 2025, the draft budget total, sorry. Anticipated significant changes are shared on that date, including some specific numbers around out-of-district tuition or specific costs, anticipated costs on some of our larger areas of costs or revenue, out-of-district tuition, circuit breaker, federal and state grant adjustments. So we get into much more specifics starting on February 13th. The budget priorities presentation, so these presentations today, next week, and the following week, aren't about numbers. They're about what we're building a budget on base to do. And that's, we will go in each school and department. They will share, leaders of those schools or departments will talk about their areas of strength, their priorities for next year, the work that they're already doing on these priorities, and then further strengthen those priorities. You will see for the most part that we're continuing work that's already underway. As I've said again and again, this is not about changing things each and every year, we're doing things differently, about building over time. And so that's how we are building our budgets and continuing our priorities. So, and then from here, so the goal of the budget priority presentations, these presentations tonight, is to begin working with the school committee on the FY 2025 budget and launch the public component of the budget. We're doing quite a bit of work, with school leaders and department leaders, and also the finance team has. But now we start the public work and start sharing with the public and the committee that work. Update the committee on the budget work done so far and the process going forward. Really have just done that. And then provide the committee with the basis for the FY 2025 budget and illustrate the connections to the plan for ongoing improvement and how we are working to strengthen our priorities. So that's the point of these presentations. And I believe that leads us into IT. Yes. So we can go from there.
Okay, great. Well, as Ben said, these are gonna be the 4 sort of top starting points of the presentation for IT. So I guess go to the first slide, let's talk about our strengths. So there are 4 items that are outlined here. We've got communication, strategic budgeting, responsiveness, and project management. We'll start with the first category. My department works alongside with the district administration, the DPW, the city IT, and other stakeholders in this organization to make sure that we're doing the things that we need to do without interrupting services, but we're also working with those departments and staff to make sure there's feedback where there's things that they need done that we can assist with. So the communication works both ways, and we've been doing some great work with all those departments, and we're just going to continue to keep those lines of communications open and keep doing all the great things we're doing with them. There's that strategic budgeting. We're doing the implementation of technological solutions that can adapt and grow, ensuring long-term viable and efficiencies while being mindful of limitations posed with current operational processes and the budget. We are aware that the budgets, fluctuate, but we have to be mindful that when we're building out the infrastructure for today, we need to make sure that we're making the sound investments that are going to last for over multiple years. We don't make a single year purchase and expect we're going to do the same thing next year. These are long-term plans. So we have to be very cognizant of that. And we, once again, work with the administration, understanding what their goals and needs are when we forecast that out. Responsiveness, all I can say is my team is fantastic about resolving issues quickly. Between the tickets that come in, the phone calls, and emails, we pride ourselves on basically resolving issues as fast as possible, shortening the amount of any interruption to learning as possible. We want it to work. We don't want the staff seeing us every single day because it should always work. So we're constantly trying to improve the back end and trying to make sure that the systems are always up and running and it's a smooth sailing. If they never see us, because it's working, perfect. That's really our long-term goal. And project management. I mean, one of the things that we have to do on a day-to-day basis is looking at large-scale technological implementations, but also even the small things like, how do we manage logistics of moving equipment around between buildings? These types of things can't be managed on spreadsheets anymore. We have project management tools that go through, we calculate out who's working on this, what resources, where are we at, what dependencies do we have to have in place to get these projects done on a timely manner and on a budget. So it's been a big shift for my department over the last several years, but we're using the tool technology out there to help us schedule and maintain an operational environment, so. All right.
Can I just take an opportunity to commend Grant on the fact that year after year, you do everything for the schools, and we've put in place 2 schools under his guidance without adding staff for those projects. And that is quite an accomplishment.
Well, I can't take the full credit for it. That is my team. It's taken years to build it, and the team that I have right now is the best team I've ever worked with in all the years of 23 years I've been here. So it's their achievement, not mine. But I appreciate it. Thank you. Move to priorities. I'm just going to quickly just talk about the top 3 categories here. We'll get into the details in the next slide. But security and operations, improving processes, and supporting learning and instruction. These are really the 3 sort of pillars of things that we're working on and that we're prioritizing for the next year. Go to the next slide. All right, now we can start talking about the meat and potatoes. So priority 1, security and operations. We're looking at expanding, reviewing our security systems, devices, external services across the district for best practices in the industry. We're looking at replacing and upgrading the physical hardware. This is something that you guys are probably aware of when we worked with the city and combining to get all new switch equipment. That's part of that infrastructure upgrades. Optimizing the network, segmentation, cohesive management. These are all benefits that we get from building on modern equipment. So these are the backbone. This is the plumbing in the wall that no one sees, but we all need to have. So.
Grant, quick question for you, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
External services, devices, external services across the district based on best practices. Is there a cost associated with looking at best practices, or I mean, how do you find best practices?
Well, so the security is an interesting, interesting word. So there's best practices, and well, what type of secure systems are you using? How are you connecting to these services? So these aren't cost us money to understand this. These are 20 pages of trade standards that out there everyone stays current on. But if, for example, we're using external service, how do we connect to that? Well, we're going to use single sign-on authentication with our accounts that are for administrative accounts, like multi-factor authentication. All these other layers put into place before we start communicating with external services. And those are the systems that we're looking at. Okay, what security settings can I enhance? Which ones don't meet our needs? Which ones do we have to change? But that's part of a review. We are reviewing those settings, and we're reporting back to the stakeholders and saying, hey, we've either found an issue or we want to make a change. We don't make change without talking to people first. We just have to look at it, review it, and then proceed. So we're not incurring any additional costs by turning on additional security features.
No, right. I've just noticed in the IT industry per se, they've figured out a way to charge you for it.
Well, they can. I mean, one of the things that you can do is you can go and get penetration testing, and they'll spend days trying to break into your infrastructure. They'll give you these large reports, but they don't tell you how to actually implement the change to fix the problems that are found.
Right.
So, yeah, there's things that you can do, we can do, and we do adhere to policies, procedures, and we work with our peers, and it's a constant evolving process, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, any other questions for that category? Okay. Improving processes. Well, now we're not talking about processing. We're evaluating and assessing our one-to-one program for support repair. I mean, that's the single largest program that we support. That's thousands of devices coming in and out of the district every day that they go home. So how efficiently we repair, replace, distribute those devices to the students, and how they function in the educational environment is important. So we're constantly refining and tweaking and moving staff around, or changing how we do the repair process. So it's always effective.
Grant, on that,
Sure.
what percentage of our student population would you say uses our distributed devices as opposed to private devices?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, we provide grades 3 through 12 take home, and we provide devices inside for grades pre-K through 2. So
most people, you would say?
I would say
The
the
majority.
vast majority use the devices we provide
Okay.
them. I can't stop someone from using their own personal
No,
device,
no,
we
yeah.
do provide it to them.
Okay.
For example, students are bringing their own laptops.
Oh, no, we don't allow,
Wait,
it.
wait,
No,
No.
They don't.
no,
They don't.
we don't want that.
So students have to use our devices that we
We
use.
provide an equitable, consistent
Okay.
educational environment across the entire board.
I didn't know that. I
Yep.
thought they had their own. Okay.
Nope.
But they can at home, right?
They can do it if they want at home,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, just to dovetail into that, it seems like we've used, most schools use what we're currently using, the take home. Is there competition for that?
Oh, yeah, the devices themselves, I mean, the Chromebook market is what it is. I
Yeah.
mean, they're as competitive as they can be, but the margins are so slim that everyone's buying 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 of these units. I mean, whether it's HP, Dell, I mean, and we review and evaluate different vendors, but we've been very fortunate to be, using HP and basically, it's been good to us. I mean, but if someone comes down the line and says, hey, this unit X is better, it's a better price, better processor, well, we'll look at it, we'll evaluate, and if it is, then we'll start cycling that into the process.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're not beholden to any one manufacturer for life just because we chose them once,
Yeah, right.
but we stick with what works.
So there's not a bid process.
I mean, we buy a state contract, if we find a model that works, we'll test it with, with staff. And look, and put in the hands of students, if it looks good, then we'll order it.
But let's be clear, it's all Chromebook.
Oh, yeah, it's a Chromebook, or Chromebook.
It's a matter of who's making the Chromebook, but there's no combination, there's no Apple in terms of student
Yeah.
devices, there's no other, operating system, it's Chromebook.
Yeah.
Is that wrong?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It could be HP, it could be, whatever.
I mean, they may use a different processor, different type of, sort of wizardry on their marketing, but it's a Chromebook at the end of the day.
So Chromebook isn't made by HP, it's just a Chromebook and
The
different companies can
the
make
Chrome
it.
OS is the operating system that runs the Chromebook.
Okay,
Many different manufacturers make the hardware, but they run on a basic standard
okay.
to operate, but like I said, there are 20 or 30 different vendors out there in the world that make them. And the price points reflect the performance. I mean, you can get one for $100 and boy, you'd be better off with a paperweight.
Yeah.
So. So
So they're making money on volumes.
it's the single largest growth in the industry when it comes to buying technology for software, it's Chromebooks. You buy them and they don't last forever. There's a shelf life, and so, yeah. So the 1-to-1 program is, one of the things that we're always constantly trying to review. Digitizing online submissions and forms wherever possible. I know we're working with the district trying to coordinate, any of these sort of online forms of submission, so we can put them in proper forms. We can pass those along to internal staff. One of the other things we're working on is working with HR. And streamlining some processes for onboarding. I think PAF forms would be something that we'd be talking about. So, we one of the things we talk about digitizing some online forms. We were working with the school choice forms. We've done the same thing with those types of forms. So we're modernizing them. It's not just like a form you can fill out anymore. We should be able to submit that online and have records and in the process of that one. So that's one of the things that we're working on. One of the other next category would be supporting learning and instruction. We ensuring the district can provide support, stable, equitable, and consistent learning environment when it comes to educational hardware and software. This goes back to making sure that we provide these devices to students. It's the same environment. Everyone has the same access. There's no difference between a 3rd grader and a 12th grader. You have a device that has all the same tools available to you, same collaboration tools. Whether we turn some features on for them, it's age appropriate, but at the end of the day, we all have the same playing field, which is nice. It makes my life a lot easier as far as dealing with staff and trying to troubleshoot and solve problems. We're all on one platform. So that's nice. And the other thing that we work really closely with is budgeting to avoid any sudden or reactive changes in the operations. We try to stay ahead of curves. We try to make sure that we don't fall behind in large groups of technology. So that way it's not these huge asks to the committee. I mean, we have to stay current and be, cognizant of where we are today, what we have to do to maintain the fleet, but also where are we going and when do we need to pivot to buy the right device to be in line with what the goals are for the district. So that's how we support infrastructure and learning. So, all right. So further strengthen. Cybersecurity, that is the thing that keeps me up all night, most nights. Wish it didn't, but it does. We are constantly reviewing and refining any of the settings that we have inside of our internal and external services. We're also implementing multi-factor authentication across accounts. We're expanding the single sign-on. We're using our Google accounts to access district resources. And we're going to continue our cybersecurity training, which is provided by the state. We just submitted for the next year. I'm waiting for the approval, which should be within 3 or 4 weeks whether we receive the funding, but we've had it for the last 2 years. I don't see them not providing it to us. So that's in line with the city's initiative. So we're tenants in the same building. We have to operate and understand that security isn't just for us, it's also for them and them to us as well. So we work alongside that.
Grant,
Yes.
single sign-on.
Yes.
Doesn't that go against strengthening security?
No, it does not.
Explain that to me.
So single sign-on, so I'll give you an example. When we go to log into a service, I'm using my Google account,
Yeah.
my Google authentication. If an employee leaves the district, we get notified from my HR and say, oh, this person as this day no longer works here. All I have to do is disable their one Google account. Any service that they connect to is automatically disabled. They cannot log into that account.
Mhm.
That is secure. And when you pair that with multi-factor authentication, when you secure the actual Google account, it's even twice secure. So everything that you connect to with SSO is also covered through SSO and MFA. So it's the standard. I want to know who's logging in where. A password is a password. We can't control third-party systems. If someone breaches that system, I won't know until it's too late. If it's in our system, we have control over. We can turn off an account immediately. We can remediate. We can increase encryption. We can stop an account. We can create a new account, reassign stuff. We have control. Outside, I don't. But using these types of tools are what gives us the control and security going forward.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions on that?
Does that mean I should have one sign in at home too?
Yes, well, I will set up a time to meet with all school committee members to enable MFA on your accounts
That's great.
shortly. So, you're welcome. Anytime. Improving process, and this is, once again, talking about, how we operate, the things we do. How can IT assist in the day-to-day operations and infrastructure to make sure we can provide resources? One of the things that we're working on right now is the parent portal preschool. That's coming soon. It should be launched sometime this year. I'm working with Christine Castle on the online enrollment, sort of figure out how we can streamline that process, collecting information. Notification services, whether that's SMS or email communications in and out of the district. Digitizing the PAF form, personnel action form. And also we're exploring other additional website management tools and services that are out there. So just anything we can do to streamline the process and give the rich tools, staff to get that information out there or collect it from the public, it's a benefit for all of us. So any questions on the priority 2? Okay. Let's go to 3, support learning and instruction. We work alongside special education, vocational, and other curriculum initiatives to ensure that we're prepared for the upcoming standards, needs, and goals. We process feedback and execute on staff and student needs as they arise. Give you some examples like clever badges. I don't know if you're aware of what those are, but I've heard of them. Our younger students, grades, K through 2, it's really hard for them to be typing in names and passwords. It becomes very awkward. But what we're able to do because of single sign-on is their Google account is we are able to print out these Q code badges. The teachers have those badges and the kids can just hold them up to the screen and logs them in to their account. That puts more time with those students working on the computer and learning than the staff trying to keep typing their names and passwords in. There was a response from the lower grade saying, we're frustrated, we don't know how to do what we need to do, but we know we need these kids on these computers quicker. The badges were a direct response to that. It's pretty much a standard across the industry. And it costs us nothing.
Do the kids have the badges themselves?
The kids, that's up to the teacher, whether the teacher wants to hand it out to them, or they can just walk over with their aid and scan it in on the Chromebook. That's a classroom management. We provide them the tools, they know how it works, and they've been using that across all the elementary schools now. So, yeah.
K2.
Yep, K2, yep. And go to Guardian Teacher is another one where, we started expanding the one-to-one program from the middle school up to high school when it first started, but now it's down to the lower grades. class, teachers needed ways to manage the class, see what the kids are doing while they're teaching the class of 20 or whatever, 24 kids at most at the one time. What are you all doing? Teachers now can see that and then, provide proper corrective action when they're not staying on task. So those are the types of tools that we put in place based on the feedback from staff. And we want to explore, review, and modernize systems and services used by the district administration, combined where possible to reduce cost or duplicate efforts. This is something that my department, we've gone through, looked at a lot of the services and tools that we use, and realized we've got 5 different things. 3 of these do the same thing as the other 2. Why am I paying for 2 other services? Cut the service, collapse them into one. It's just a constant review of the services that we have, and we'll work with other departments and say, well, what are you using for assessment software? What are you using for a diagnostic tool for do X? Okay. Are you using the same one? Yeah. Okay, well, then there's a value in if we're paying 2 separate subscriptions, maybe we can collapse subscriptions into a more unified one. So those types of, reviews are what we do on a regular basis. I think that is my last slide. Any questions?
I have a, what?
We don't know their asks. Ask what they're asking.
They're asking for all of that.
They're
Yeah.
asking to accomplish this,
Yeah.
funding to
I
do
know,
so.
but
That's why I said in the very beginning, there are no numbers tonight.
I know.
Never have been
I
for the
struggle
last
with that.
3 years.
I
Not budget
have no numbers to give you at this time.
no, I know. And you won't give them to us till April.
That is
Well,
correct.
they're gonna get them in February.
Well, until, yes, I'll have to sit and go line item by line item with you at some point, but yes. Is there any questions about sort of our initiatives or anything that you'd like to ask while I'm here?
We're in good hands. I
Well,
have
I
faith in
tried.
that.
My,
So Gwen, do you have a network of other district IT directors that,
yes, so I am a member of the Mass Tech Directors Listserver. Well, we could probably say they communicate to each other more than they should during the course of the day. I have to filter their hundreds of emails out, but they're a very active group. They bring up some very interesting discussions, everything from budget to disciplinary actions to processes, rules, compliances. It's a nonstop smorgasbord of options. The other thing that I'm also a member of is the North Shore Tech Collaborative, where there's all the North Shore directors, city and school. We also get together informally and we'll meet. We have discussions about how do we operate in a municipal environment, or how do we operate within the school, within a municipality. So there's a lot of those cross pollinations and conversations with my peers. And also I maintain friendships with other directors of other districts. So, yeah.
I have a question.
I have an answer.
I know you do.
I'm
I'm talking to you, you know that. So in collaboration with the city, because we're one under
We
the
are
same
one, yeah.
roof.
Mhm.
How separate is your job from the city? Like where are the crossovers?
So that's a very good question to ask. So I look at it, we are one house where we share the same data center, we share the same infrastructure, internet services, but where that is, that's where it sort of stops. We focus primarily on, well, not primarily, we only focus on really the educational side of things. The city deals with the financial side, the public safety, those modules. They are 2 separate timetables. They answer to different sort of masters. It is a completely different world. So we're able to stay focused on task on the education side, where the city may work more dealing with public safety, with police, fire,
Yeah.
collecting revenue, it's important. Parking meters, I mean, I don't get into the nuance of dealing with why the parking meters aren't collecting revenue at the beach, that's not a problem. I care about the devices connecting to the networks that kids can get on and finish their homework. So that's sort of where it separates, but what we've been doing is we've been working on infrastructure, we work on phone telecommunications. Those are things that we have shared services, we need to communicate to them, so that's where we start looking at, hey, we're gonna modernize this. Do you guys want to come on board, or vice versa? We say yes. So we'll start collapsing some of those types of services, phone circuits, internet security, those types of devices and appliances will standardize together because we live in the same ecosphere. But when it comes time to actually do the day-to-day work, we work with each other when we need to, but we run independent.
Right.
If that makes sense.
And I'm just asking from a capital perspective, so if there's improvements to be done, it's not the improvements aren't necessarily just done to the school side,
No.
because we do have that share.
Yes.
But the focus is different as far as your job responsibilities as by department.
Yeah,
So I'm just trying to understand that a little better.
and when we start talking about long-term strategies, like we're talking about the data center, like, well,
Yeah.
what is our needs and requirements? You know, we work very closely with Ryan and his staff, building up the spec. What is their goals? Where are they gonna be in the next 5 years for their infrastructure? Where do we see our infrastructure going? And that, those conversations help drive, you know, the projects that we're working on together. It's been a great collaboration. I can't say enough great things about Ryan and his
Yeah,
team, and
right.
it's been amazing, so.
So anything you come forward with when we do start talking numbers, if it involves anything
Oh,
as a
sure.
collaboration,
Oh, sure.
those conversations have already been had.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, well, and if there's any future ones that come up, we'll definitely bring them to your attention as well.
Thank you.
Would you say we're the heavier technology user because of the number of?
I mean, it's a numbers game. I mean, we've got what, 2,800 students, 650-ish staff. It's a lot of people, it's a lot of technology, but how we use it and how they use it, we're talking apples and oranges. I really couldn't speak to who's the heavier lifter, but we probably use more data during the course of the day than I think the city would, because every student's surfing the web doing something. So we may be a large consumer of resources, but it doesn't, I don't know, I can't really speak to computation.
Yeah, they've got probably a more varied portfolio.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
yeah, I mean, they're,
Where we're, you know, we have numbers certainly,
yeah,
but, yeah, not as many.
we focus on a very small
Yeah, we do have
space.
more, you know, I mean, yeah, our IT team, you know, does have, you know, more diverse set of, you know, responsibilities or areas work in than you might expect, much more than Chromebooks and devices, you know. It's the phones, security system, you know, it's, you know, it's monitoring the
Service.
the food service, you know, the coolers, that sort of stuff, you know, power, that sort of stuff, but it's not as broad as the city.
But one of the other things that we've been doing so we talk about collaborating and sharing, is we've been working with the city to bring our building security together. So we're on a central system, there's still a few buildings that need to get moved to that system, but we are collapsing into one. So that way we get to leverage the benefit of the city's infrastructure, their experience, their contracts with these vendors. It's helping us out immensely, and plus we can share the cost, and that's really where it matters.
Yeah,
So those types of consolidations of services and product are huge, and it's how we survive.
How many on your team?
I have 7.
How many on the city's team, do you know?
I think they may be 6, but it's, like I said, apples and oranges.
Yeah, no, and I'm just trying to see how many people are running the city's tech, that's all. I mean, the whole city,
Like I said,
including schools. It's a lot.
It's a lot,
Yeah,
and it's still not enough. I mean, we take double, and we still have enough work to do.
right, so there was a ratio where we used to talk about how many students per person, and where,
Oh,
does that
so-
even matter anymore, or have we built up to enough support that?
So in the industry, it's funny, so in the IT industry, they say it's 100 users to 1 technician. That's cute, we're like 450 to 1, so, yeah, okay, that's cute.
But you're answering quickly and it's working.
Because we standardize a lot of the technology, we're able to, if there's a problem that manifests, well, guess what, it's gonna manifest to everyone.
Right,
Well, we can fix that, we fix it once, fix it everywhere.
Yeah.
So problems may scale, but our responses scale as well.
Right.
So
okay,
in the nature of the work has changed a little bit, so
Yeah.
because devices we use, so that's how we're able to survive the
Seems more
large diversity.
mainstream.
We even streamline it, so.
All right, any more questions for IT?
Just one, looking into your crystal ball, Grant, what do you see as the biggest challenge for IT down here? Look out 3 years, what's the biggest challenge coming down the road?
That's, I mean, right now, it's gonna be cybersecurity. That's, I mean, that and the unknown. I mean, the funny thing about my department is we come in every day, we don't know what's going wrong. We hope that everything we did the day before worked, and we're hoping that it's gonna work tomorrow, and we pray that it's gonna work, and it does sometimes, and then others decide, no, not today, and they push a button, make a mistake, and then we have to go fix it. We just never know what we're gonna walk into, and to be honest, sometimes that's the excitement. We like the challenge too, we like to be able to figure out the problem and work it, but we also wanna build things where we don't have to worry every day either, so, yeah. That's where we're at.
Thank you.
We're good. I agree to escape.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thanks, Brad.
Before you leave, Grant, just to, because you would put to work with special ed,
Yes.
and that is one of, I feel like the strengths that I will talk about, but I'm saying it before you leave. That just the relationship between IT and special education in order to support the differentiation and the specialized equipment that so many students need. They are super responsive and great to work with.
We're happy to be able to provide the technology to the students.
Thank you very
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank
Thanks, Graham.
Thank you, Graham.
All right, am I up?
You're up.
You are indeed.
Okay. I use similar pictures as last year because I feel like the pictures really help to show how we all really need to work together in order to support the students, families, parents, administrators, staff, all of us together. So I will go over with one extra slide here. We're going to talk about the context and challenges, just to highlight some of those, our areas of strength, our priorities for, we need to adjust that to 24-25, sorry. And the work we're already doing on our priorities and then further strengthen these priorities. Context and challenges for special education. Do you want me to start and
No,
you jump in, or you wanna?
Let me just, I'll do the slide, then I'll get out of the way. So as we've been sharing with the BNS subcommittee and the school committee all this year and also last year, I mean, this was a big part of last year's budget development process. There are some specific challenges and context around special education that we want to just get out there again for all of you and the members of the public. And this is the only slide we're covering numbers, in these next few presentations here. But there's been significant unexpected out of district placements over this school year and the last school year. About 27 students have been placed in out of district programs over that time. And that's been a combination of students who moved to Gloucester already in out of district placements, and then also students, that have been in our schools for, have been attending our schools. Those placements alone have added $200 million of costs to our budget. There have also been some savings along the way too, as we brought some students back in, but that's over the cost of the last 2 years for those students. That is combined with the ongoing out of district tuition rate increases. So last year, on average, private tuition increases were 10% and more, or more than 10%, sorry. And this year, for FY25, rather, we expect a $300,000 cost tuition increase charges from the North Shore Consortium, where the consortium is where we placed our largest number of students in terms of need services and support outside of the district.
And to be clear, the increase in the private is because there aren't any other choices, correct?
I mean, it's
Well, that's part of the
ongoing.
reason.
It's part of the reason. It's ongoing cost. It's cost of doing business. It's
Inflation.
It's inflation, but also, I mean, last year when they requested a 14% increase, they received most of that. Okay, that was a significant. I'm not sure what increase they've never seen before, really. So I don't. But it really is a confluence of higher need, fewer available spots, inflation, and things. It's really complex factors.
Thank you.
And this is the third one. Adjunct placements are hard to find, especially with the ongoing needs, especially with students with complex or severe needs. It's very difficult to find placements, and not just for us. That's for any school district. There's a lack of spots available. But that also means that students who we are looking for placements for, who are in our schools, remain in our schools, it's challenging for us to provide the level of service support for those students. We're doing the best we can, but it's difficult. There's while we pursue and Katie and her team, our school teams pursue lots of options. They're really trying, again and again over many months, if not. But that does mean that there are students that we're supporting in our schools that we don't necessarily have just the right service and support and programs for. And then transportation cost increases continue last year in FY23. There was $900,000, $1 million in transportation increases, and we anticipate for FY25 $300,000 more. And that's a combination of more students, but also the rates tripled last year. During the school year, during the fiscal year. So So both of those factors, more students being transported at higher rates. So that's a context within which it's important to listen to the great work we're doing across our schools. Make sure that our practices and our programs, that our services support to students, really are top notch. Any questions there on that context? You've heard it before, this is not news, especially for three of you, or anyone in the room.
I have a question. Is there any talk at the state about expanding capacity? I know there's a lot of articles about adding more vocational schools and is anybody, for the North Shore Education Consortium, is anybody talking about the needs, right? I mean, are they planning? Are they looking at the trend and responding at a state level to advocate? Or are they
Will I
building?
jump in?
Yeah,
I can-
yes, and what are the results?
I mean, I
So,
just haven't
a
read
lot-
anything about it. That's
Yeah.
in
Well,
terms of real action.
a lot of the issues with finding out of district placements are that they're short-staffed.
Yeah.
They're not able to find the staff that they need.
Right.
They may have space
Yes.
to expand.
Okay.
They don't have the staff to expand.
Okay.
So that's the biggest hurdle, I think, is finding qualified staff.
Okay.
To work in these programs.
So one of the things, for example, in terms of capacity then. Is some local districts, we're in conversation with some North Shore districts about whether we can develop programs, in a neighboring district that those districts around it can go to. That could be run by the consortium or run by the local district. But even in that case, if we're able to get some of those off the ground or any of those off the ground, you still are likely to face it in running the staffing situation anyway.
Right.
So that doesn't, even though there's intent and maybe desire to build that, it may still run the same final problem.
But the hope would be that if we could have the conversation, be talking about it and talk about sharing some resources. Maybe that would help support with at least a handful of students in each of the KPF districts. So those conversations are starting, but they're. All right, so on to our strengths. We will see that these really have not changed over the past couple of years. We have strengths with we have caring and empathetic staff across the district. We have a strong culture and a really strong community that supports our special education students. The continuum of supports and resources. We are currently well-staffed for special education services and resources. In order to be able to provide a continuum, we are seeing that this is where the previous slide and the context and the challenges is showing that while this has been a strength, we need to continue to expand and really look closely at what do we have for a continuum of services. So while it's a strength, it's also something that we need to continue to look at. And then our strong community partnerships. We have some fabulous partnerships with, I can't say enough about the YMCA, Open Door Food Pantry, CADA, I added, I think after the fact, we've been partnering with CADA for our transition program and working on building the capacity of students to be able to access transportation more independently. And we are actively building our CPAC. We have monthly meetings, the third Thursday of every month, and they're held at the YMCA. They've offered us a spot there. So that is actively building and expanding our capacity for that.
Katie, before we go to the next page, when you say well-staffed, approximately how many staff would you say works under the umbrella of the special education department?
So I actually just started pulling that data all together for the numbers and the budget, so I don't have that off the top of my head. I don't know if I do,
10,
Gary.
15, 20,
Oh.
what is?
Oh, no, wait, a lot more than that.
Teachers.
We have, so like at the elementary schools, we have our school psychologists.
Okay.
We have speech and language pathologists, we have occupational therapists, physical therapists, then we have all our special ed teachers that are grade level liaisons.
Yep.
We also have our special education program teachers, and we have our special education program leaders.
Okay.
There's
a lot.
And especially getting
paraprofessionals, BCBA's.
Yeah. I never really thought about it, that's why I just asked the question.
Yeah, I think we're probably, oh, I don't wanna estimate, but.
Yeah, it's all right, I don't need a number, I was.
Get that.
There's a good, I think we're close to 100 if we get round,
Yeah,
so I am gonna pull all that together,
Okay.
but,
thank you.
our priorities for special education, these remain the same as what our plans on for ongoing improvement. Our first priority is the evaluation and identification of students with disabilities, really looking at strengthening and building consistency of our processes. Our individualized education program development, so when a student does go on an individualized education plan, really working on training and consults around how do we support with ongoing consistency and development of making sure we're targeting the student needs. And then our specialized instructional practices and consultation. Providing a high range of instructional practices, consult, professional development in order to continue to support our staff. Next slide. Excuse me, so some of the work that we are already doing, and that we've been focusing on over the course of this year in regards to evaluation and identification is the special education teacher training. So these are all things that we are continuing year to year and building upon. So the training that we have for our special education teachers across the district around administering and scoring and interpreting certain evaluation results and really honing in on identifying specific learning disabilities. We've been working on K-5, we're adding 6 to 8. The professional development that we have had for our program leaders and special ed coordinators. So those are our team chairs that are running the meetings. And we did a lot of work this summer with training and ongoing meetings together to really build their capacity on how do you pull together evaluation results and understand the whole picture of the student to help guide the IEP process. We've updated our special education manual and put live links to all of our updated forms. Putting in place updated procedures created by the district team in order to build the consistency. So for our pre-referral, referral evaluations and eligibility, a lot of the forms in our special ed manual, we've updated the links, and then we're working really to build that consistency around how everyone is using similar forms to track internally and look at how are we going about doing an evaluation and looking at what are the questions that we need to answer, what is the primary disability category, really streamlining all of that. And then implementing the action items from the Department of Ed for our tiered focus monitoring around the educational assessment training that we did for all staff. Our special ed coordinators pulled together the training based on the Department of Ed feedback and did presentations at each of the building levels to provide additional resources to our general education teachers around how to go about doing the academic educational assessment for our, whenever they do have an initial or reevaluation for students.
Are IEPs, Katie, I guess what I'm asking, is everything online now? I mean, when you're doing an IEP, is that done?
We have software.
online? Yeah,
Frontline is our software that we use through, it's called eSped. And that is the system that we use to put all of our information in and house all of our IEP software. We do have, you'll see on the next slide where it talks about IEP development, there is a new IEP form that's coming out from the Department of Ed. It is, some districts have taken on the initiative. If you want to, can we go to the next slide or do you have questions on this one? The new IEP form, a lot of the work that we're going to be doing for IEP development is that we're doing this year is the training for staff on what does that form look like? What is the adaptive changes versus the technical changes, and how do we then create resources internally together to support with that rollout? There's also the software that we really have to look at. How are we, the new IEP form coming in, and how are we rolling all of that over from our current IEP format into the new one? So that, like, I know we're not talking numbers, but we're looking at how do we support with that. Did that answer your question?
It did, yeah. The other way, just to dovetail into that, when someone's doing an IEP for a student, who's doing it? Is it you as the director, or is it at the school level, or what does that look like?
It is, so the evaluation, the team that evaluates the student for an initial evaluation, that team is responsible for pulling together all the pieces. The liaison, the team chair, the program leader, anyone that had an evaluation that they have results on, they're responsible for inputting their part into the IEP. The team chair then pulls it all together and sends it out to the parent for signature, It goes out from the building.
Can you just add in a little, like some of the roles, they're different, depending on the student and their profile, it might have different types of actors involved on the team.
Right.
So, but you can give us some examples of the types of folks who might be on the team,
So
what their roles are.
for an initial evaluation, there's always a school psychologist. There is a special education teacher that's doing like the academic achievement testing. You have your general education teacher that's doing the educational assessment. And then you may have a speech and language pathologist that did an eval, occupational therapy. Any evaluations that are done, they go into the key area evaluation results on the IEP. From there, the IEP is developed by the team at the table for an initial eval. And then putting in what is the specially designed instruction that the student requires, what are the accommodations? So it's really pulling that all together. Every year, we review the IEP. You don't go through all the testing again, but you review the IEP for progress and determine what the next year's goals and benchmarks will be for the IEP. So every year you're reviewing it for progress and updating it based on student need. Every 3 years, you're doing a full reevaluation of assessments in order to redetermine eligibility, to determine are they still eligible? Does their profile look the same? What do they require for services?
And to Grant's point, this is all done securely in the background, so to speak. I mean, people don't have access, obviously, people
So
don't have access. to
The
everything.
special education teachers all have access to the IEPs that they're building, so any of our special education staff do. The general education teachers provide their information to the special ed liaison and they input.
So it's good that education would have access to the students that they are working with.
Yeah.
Those students' information.
So, is it more common or not for someone to stay on an IEP throughout their K through 12? I
I
know,
will have data for that when we talk about
okay,
the special ed department and go over the percentages. And I can specifically highlight that. Depending on the disability.
right, yeah, I can
It really,
imagine.
it varies. If it's a low level of need,
Get them over. a
then
hump or-
you
yeah.
can provide intervention early and then they can no longer require.
Right.
For example, if it's just speech and language articulation for producing sounds.
Right.
Oftentimes, short-term period of remediation over 2 to 3 years and they no longer require it. If it's a more severe or moderate to severe need, then it could be all through K to 12.
Okay, and then the college too.
And we do have some students that access services until age 22.
Okay,
Okay, so the IEP education program. So the work this year that we're doing is really to prepare for that rollout next year, providing professional development, providing ongoing coaching for staff, really fine tuning what are our progress monitoring tools that we're using in order to assess data and assess progress. We're providing special education staff with opportunities to practice. We're starting next month with opportunities to practice with the new IEP format, and we have a consultant that's gonna be working with them around how to go about inputting things in. So we've already done a whole lot of training with staff. They know what's coming to minimize the anxiety. And a lot of staff are saying, oh, this is really very similar. There's not a lot of changes. Other staff may see it as more changes, but it really does come down to the big changes are really around the data collection, the progress monitoring and the data collection, and really honing in on that. And then we want to map out our PD for the general education staff and leadership team for them to be able to support with the rollout as well. Okay, and our specialized instructional practices and consultation. This is the work that we are really doing around professional development training on high incidence categories that we're seeing a lot of need across the district for, with the increase in students with social emotional needs, our students with autism needing additional ABA training for staff, specific learning and communication. Those are, we've done a lot of professional development this year around that. We did it last year, we've continued this year. Excuse me. Our BCBAs have done a lot of work with looking at data and fine tuning and honing in on what are the, I think I just jumped ahead, sorry. This is what we're currently doing, sorry. Creating systems, so the training that they've done, and then they're providing training around for paraprofessionals, for special education teachers, really honing in and looking at data to help determine what those needs are. We have created systems for specialized consultation for students who are in progress or need additional support. So we have a district team looking at that. We are piloting a new ELA curriculum in our K-3 Learning Center at East Veterans for students that are not in the classroom for tier 1 instruction. They're coming out for small group instruction with emerging skills. So we're piloting that.
So we're already doing that.
We ordered the curriculum and we're working on piloting it this year. The remainder of
It's
this
been
year.
purchased.
I believe it went through for being purchased, yes. Amy helped with that, thank you. And we are continuing to review our continuum of services and our specialized program curriculum.
Question for you, Katie. I'm thinking, as you were talking, I was thinking, is there a chance of not getting caught in the net? And I was thinking the special education net, and I was thinking specifically about English language learners. So, like, is it harder to detect? Or is it harder to kind of say, this student might need specialized services or get on an IEP?
It's a great question, and it's part of the new IEP form. There is an entire page of the IEP developed to, if you are an English language learner, here's the data that you need to make sure you collect. Here's what you need to review and make sure that you're not over identifying for special education. If it is related to EL, so there's going to be more pre-referral requirements for students that are EL to make sure that we are providing them with certain supports and collecting data to monitor before identifying them with special ed.
So their concern is that you could for lack of a better term, almost over-identify, like, oh, you know, maybe the student just is just learning English and that's all.
Yeah, and
it
the
is.
goal of the new IEP form is really to make sure you're pulling all the service providers together, the general ed teacher, the EL teacher, the special ed teacher. So you're really looking at it at the student as a whole versus and making sure you have all the right people at the table to be talking about what is being put in place, what does the data say. We do, if we evaluate a student who is an English language learner, we need to provide them the evaluation in their primary language. So we then need to contract out to have people come in to do those evals. It's sometimes hard to find those to.
We need to hire those.
We contract out, so
all
we
contract.
have like a list of agencies that we reach out to. Somebody.
And I don't normally talk about my own kids, but one of them had an auditory processing disorder and had to go out for outside services, which was kind of, for an outside evaluation. And I don't know if, do do we still have to do that type of stuff, or are we confident enough that, hey, we got a good handle on what's, learning about students?
So if the team is unsure and we don't have someone on staff in order to provide the answers to the questions we need, then we can reach out and contract with somebody to do that evaluation. So we have speech therapists who can look a little deeper into, is it an auditory processing disability?
Let's see.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense.
Okay, so further strengthening our priorities, this is continuing the work. There is nothing additional that we're doing for evaluation and identification other than continuing the work, deepening the building the consistency with our evaluation and assessment tools across the district, continuing to provide training and coaching, really honing in now and focusing on refining our evaluation reports and synthesizing those evaluation results when we're presenting out at team meetings and ensure understanding. And then continuing to refine our child study processes to ensure that the pre-referral processes and interventions are in place and evident prior to referring for a special education evaluation. Priority 2 for individualized education program development. The special education coordinators are working together and with the staff as needed to provide feedback and support with the new DESI IEP and district implementation. This is going to be a big undertaking, so we want to make sure that staff have the resources and the supports they need. Continue to refine our progress monitoring data collection tools and begin a process. This is the one thing we are beginning a process really to review district-wide special education data. So really to dig down into our students through our databases that we have, our students with disabilities, and looking at are our students making effective progress moving forward? And if not, how are we assisting and supporting in order to ensure those gaps are being closed? And then reviewing parent survey data, so up to determine next steps with parent participation and understanding of the IEP process.
Did we start the surveys last year, or is this new?
We're in the process of creating it, and we're going to work with CPAC, with the CPAC group on creating that survey.
Great.
Oh, there it is. And then specialized instructional practice and consultation. This is where I was getting ahead of myself before, talking about the work we're going to do. Continuing to review and refine our existing programs and specialized curriculum. And the reason why this is so important is because of the rising costs of out of district, because of the high level of needs that we're seeing for students in front of us, and because of the difficulty with finding placements. We really need to look at what do we have for our existing programs and our specialized instruction and curriculum and consult to really see if we can meet the needs of students within the district, or at least some of them. Our BCBAs continue to collect behavior data collection and look for trends and support with district-wide staff training. So that's something that we're going to be doing more of as well. And then we are going to be providing specialized training and implementation of a specialized reading curriculum for grades 11 through 12. We started it at the middle school last year for rollout, and then for middle school the first year, 9th and 10th last year, and then we're going to expand to 11th and 12th. There's probably a question.
So on that last one, the training that you're expanding, you already have the resources to do that? Is it just knowledge?
We already have-
Expanding
yep.
the grades?
Yep.
Okay.
We already have the resources, and we have the 9th and 10th grade teacher has been utilizing it. Year to year, there may be additional supplies that we need to if we're expanding, but
Right.
it's
So, some years ago, the district had someone come in, a good speaker on anxiety. And they had, professional development during the day, and then they did a session for parents, which as a parent.
Just for the record, that was last year.
No, it was before that too,
Okay.
right? Remember, I think you had seen somebody at the conference.
Yep.
So my son, I think,
Sorry.
was in 8th grade at the time.
Yeah.
Obviously, clearly still one of the topics and
Yep.
challenges for
Absolutely.
students, but one of the things that the speaker talked about was different strategies, classroom strategies and this, it was very informative, particularly if you're not in the field. And it occurred to me that unless somebody had a reason to go use it and use it regularly, or be reminded to be using it, that it might be one of those things. I heard it, but I didn't have to implement any of it or have it become then part of my current practice. So who is evaluating or checking up on, we've done the training, are people reflective of that training, and are they implementing and being faithful to that training so that we can see the results? Because to me, some of the things they pointed out as strategies were just so, could make such a difference, right? How do you don't single out the shy kid or the kids with anxiety when they walk in the class and ask a question and they don't put up their hand to answer. That's not the way you bring somebody who has anxiety out of their shell. It's the opposite. And so unless somebody is making sure that the professional development is actually being implemented and becomes common practice, second nature, right? There's some people that have literacy as their kind of educational background when they come through college, and that is their slant on everything. But if you haven't done that, how do you get somebody to kind of put in place new practices that have been proven to be more effective? So that's a big question.
So it is one of the things where the BCBA's have been putting some things in place district-wide for training around applied behavior analysis, the science of behavior, because there is a science behind behavior, and there are certain strategies. They've done a lot of PD this year. They are going to dig a little deeper with looking at behavioral data that we're collecting. We have put things in place around data collection for behavior that all of the elementary schools and middle school are using to really track different behaviors that are occurring when they're occurring. And now the BCBA's are going to start looking a little more closely at that data for trends. So that can help with looking at, are we seeing the same patterns? Or are we seeing a decrease? I think it also goes to building administrators around the evaluation process and really getting into classrooms and looking at the strategies that have been taught, are those being implemented, and providing feedback for that.
That's the answer I was hoping for.
We also, you made me think of, we have for parent information nights. We do have 2 that will be coming up, one in January and one in March, that will be speakers. We're bringing in more speakers for the CPAC. So we're putting together a flyer to get that out for all parents to be able to. And if we get a lot of responses, we might need a bigger space than the YMCA. But we're also going to have it options for, we're going to record it and have it online as well. That'll be a repeat around executive functioning strategies, digging a little bit deeper and understanding laws around special education. And
so make sure that that is something we also share on our school committee page, so that we can encourage attendance for things like that.
we usually give it to Mike Gaffney.
Right,
To
because
put out.
I just think sometimes things that go out under the special education department, the general parents may not plug in as much unless they had like an introduction. Generated from.
No, for these things, we should get all those that are under the auspices of education, many folks have been, for instance, as you're saying, so we'll make sure we broadcast it very well.
Yeah, welcome to the community.
And I'm an administrator on the school committee page, and Once I see it, I'll post it. to the school committee.
We have Carrie Mueller, I think is her name, at West Parish. She is a teacher there. She has also become the CPAC president. And she is very technology savvy with creating beautiful flyers and reaching out to gain parent input. So we've had a better turnout this year for our meetings, and we're really mapping out what our who are presenters we can bring in to speak. Melanie Giles for PC communication. And Kelly Martins for executive functioning and IT laws. Kind of mapping this out, looking for input on what else parents might want. Great. Okay. Did I make it in time for 6:20?
Good job.
Okay. We don't have any action items on tonight.
Nope, all set for that.
There a motion to adjourn.
So motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Very good stuff, Kate, yes.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good meeting.
Eighty.